charges is higher than mere probable cause. We have the burden of proving each case beyond a reasonable doubt. In doing so, a prosecutor must have a good faith basis that the evidence presented will sustain a conviction. While the evidence in this case is legally sufficient for the police to have charged Mr. Lewandowski, it is not strong enough to meet the legal burden of a reasonable likelihood of a conviction. It is unethical for us to file cases when we believe there is not a good faith basis to proceed. Here are some of the facts as stated in Ms. Ellis's closeout memorandum. On March 8, 2016, news reporter Michelle Fields was covering a campaign event in the ballroom at the Trump International Golf Club in Jupiter. Presidential candidate Donald Trump had just completed a press conference. Afterwards, he left the podium and was moving towards the ballroom exit. He had a number of Secret Service agents attempting to maintain space between him and the public. The full video recording shows Secret Service agents clearing the pathway ahead of Mr. Trump. Specifically, it appears that Ms. Fields was directed to the back of the room along with other members of the media. After initially complying with the directive, Ms. Fields returned to the pathway area and walked directly alongside Mr. Trump, attempting to ask questions of him. It appears, based on the freeze frames from the video recording and an independent photograph taken by a Washington Post photographer, that Ms. Fields brushed or touched Mr. Trump's arm. He then appears to react to Ms. Fields by pulling his arm back and away from her, at which time Mr. Lewandowski reached forward and grabbed Ms. Fields' arm, pulling her away from Mr. Trump. Both Mr. Trump and Mr. Lewandowski then continued toward the exit at the back of the room. After reviewing the video recording, there is no reasonable doubt that Mr. Lewandowski pulled Ms. Fields back as she was attempting to interview Mr. Trump. According to an affidavit submitted by a former FBI agent, when tasked with the protection of a political candidate, Secret Service agents will create a protective bubble. This protective bubble is created to prevent unauthorized individuals from getting too close to the person, regardless of whether or not they are members of the press. More importantly, under these circumstances, it is not uncommon for a candidate's inner circle staff members, known to the agents, to assist in clearing a safe pathway. It should be noted, however, that one agent was positioned directly behind Ms. Fields and appeared to show no concern over her actions. Mr. Lewandowski could have called this agent's attention to her movements before taking action himself if he considered her a threat. In addition, soon after the incident, Mr. Lewandowski publicly denied ever touching Ms. Fields in any way. Although these factors might undermine Mr. Lewandowski's potential defense, they do not outweigh the reasonable hypothesis of innocence based on the real-time facts and circumstances recorded on the video. As stated earlier, law enforcement arrests are based upon probable cause. State prosecution, however, relies upon a good faith basis that sufficient evidence exists to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. This includes consideration of any apparent defenses. Although the facts support the allegation that Mr. Lewandowski did grab Ms. Fields' arm against her will, Mr. Lewandowski has a reasonable hypothesis of innocence. There is insufficient evidence to rebut these defenses. Therefore, although probable cause exists, the state will no-file this case. I'm now available for any questions you may have for me or Ms. Ellis.
There have been reports.
Would you talk about whether or not, I'm sorry, Glenn and Milberg?
Yeah, hi Glenn.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Will you talk about whether or not the political atmosphere entered into what your process was, considering this was a simple battery?
Yeah.
Case?
Well, as far as our review of the case, it was just like any other case. I do acknowledge that there is international attention to this case, which doesn't exist in just about any other simple battery case. So that's why, we have a press conference like this. But as far as the actual work that was done, the review, the analysis, it's the same as in every case. Brian, you have a question.
There have been reports that you attempted to facilitate a deal with Mr. Lewandowski to publicly apologize. Is that true?
The apology in a case like this obviously would be encouraged. I mean, it's a good thing to have it. We always appreciate when people take responsibility for their actions. But I can tell you that our decision, Ms. Ellis's memorandum and our decision in this case, had nothing to do with the existence or non-existence of an apology.
Did you, this is Nick Madigan of the New York Times. Did you speak to Mr. Lewandowski? Did your office interview him before you came to this conclusion?
Well, since Ms. Ellis was in charge of the investigation, I'll turn that specific question over to her.
Did
No,
you
we
speak with
did.
him at any
No,
point?
no, we did not speak with Mr. Lewandowski. We spoke with his attorney.
With his attorney?
Yes.
Did you have a personal meeting with him, or just over the phone? How did you do that?
Yes, we spoke with him in person as well as over the phone.
Did he try to persuade you not to charge? Did he give any reason?
Yeah,
trying to persuade you?
well, he came in with what he believed to be the facts of the case. So he wanted to present what he believed to be the facts of the case, and we took that into consideration.
Okay. Did the Jupiter, I'm sorry, just one more. Did the Jupiter Police Department, before they charged him initially, because that happened within 2 days, I think, of the event, did they contact your
No.
office at all? Did they seek any advice?
No.
No.
No?
No.
That was entirely up to them at that point?
Correct.
But they later got in touch with you? Did you have meetings about how to go about that?
The Jupiter Police Department sent over the filing packet
Right.
after the charges were filed. Then, when Ms. Ellis did our own investigation for the office, among other things, she interviewed the lead detective in the case from the Jupiter Police Department. In fact, that lead detective was here in this office for more than an hour and a half.
Kerry Sanders with NBC News.
Yeah, hi, Kerry.
In addition to the photograph, the statements from Ms. Fields and the Washington Post reporter and the videotape that has been released, was there any other physical evidence that you looked at, any other videotapes that we haven't seen, any other photographs that we have not seen?
No, we looked at, obviously there was a photograph of a bruise on her arm that we reviewed. And in terms of anything else that we reviewed, everything else is taken from the actual video surveillance recording.
Does that include
Still photographs from the freeze frame shots.
Does that include anything where the Secret Service is directing her prior to, that you could actually see them?
Absolutely.
What is that?
Yes, sir.
Explain it to me.
That is captured on the video surveillance recording.
And it shows, or we can hear what?
You can't necessarily hear because Mr. Trump is making his way to the exit, so you can't actually hear what's actually being said. You hear noise in the ballroom, but as they are making their way out, what is captured on the video is her, along with other journalists, media, being directed to the back of the ballroom.
And you spoke to that Secret Service agent to confirm that that's what he was telling her to do?
No, we did not.
Kurt
Did you
Anderson
speak
from the
to-
Associated Press.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask, has anyone spoken with Mrs. Fields today, and does she support this decision, or would she rather have gone forward with the prosecution?
We both spoke with Ms. Fields today. And I'll let you speak to her about her thoughts, but it was clear to us she was disappointed by the decision.
How so? What kind of message did she convey to you to make you think that?
I mean, she wanted a prosecution to go forward.
What about the apology? There was a story that if she were to get an apology, she would step back and not ask for you to prosecute.
There was no deal where we're going to drop charges in exchange for an apology. But as I said earlier, in a case like this, we do encourage an apology. We think it's a good idea. And I think that had an apology been given at the beginning of all this, we could have avoided the whole criminal justice process for this matter.
Has there been an apology since that you're aware of?
Well, I know that they were working on one, and they showed me a draft of an apology. I
Who's
don't know
they?
the attorneys for the defendant.
Can you tell us what it said?
I would be paraphrasing it, but it was a
Okay.
short apology, and it's up to them to reach out to Ms. Fields and send it to her.
When did they show you that? Do you remember?
It's
Earlier
recently.
Earlier this week.
Did you speak to Ms. Fields as part of your investigation?
Absolutely.
At some length, I imagine?
Yes, I spoke with Mrs. Fields on 3 occasions.
Adrian,
Yes, yeah.
Terry Parker with Channel 25.
Yes, ma'am.
When you saw the photograph of Ms. Fields' bruises, did it appear to you that they were from the incident in question?
Well, the initial photos that we received were a couple of days old because it was a delayed reporting, obviously. And when I met with the detective in my office afterwards, I asked him to reach out to see if he could obtain a photograph that would have been taken more closer in time. And she had taken a photograph on her iPhone that same evening, and there was really nothing there. So it was an investigation that I wanted him to do just to make it a more thorough and complete investigation. But the photographs that we have from her, from actually the Jupiter Police Department, do show bruising. But, you know, it wasn't anything that was anything remotely close to what we got from her the actual night that it happened.
Her phone did not show any.
Her phone did not show any bruising, no. It wasn't until the photographs that the detective would have picked up a couple of days later.
But that's just a quality of photo
WFR from
issue,
Miami.
that's not that there was no injury.
Well, that could be what happens when someone's bruised, you know.
But the bruise comes up later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Ted Scout in WFR Miami. Can you talk about that protective bubble that we see in the memo here, and kind of what you say that she did that got kind of getting into that bubble there?
You know, we have a video, the full video, and I think you may have it, but we have it. And I think, Brian, are we going to be showing that afterwards? Yeah, we're going to show you the video, the full video afterwards, and I think you'll be able to see for yourself what we mean by it.
If you can explain though what your findings were with watching that video.
Well, the press was directed towards the back. There's this bubble, and she makes her way beyond the press area and gets right next to Mr. Trump and actually makes slight contact with Mr. Trump. And you can see that he sort of recoils, and that's when Mr. Lewandowski comes and grabs her arm.
Mr. State Attorney, would you say because of that, in your opinion, Donald Trump has a legitimate claim for a simple battery?
Well, it's our belief that what we saw in the video, that any contact was incidental, and that is not contemplated under the simple battery statute, which requires an intentional and unwanted touching. George?
How common is it for a police agency to file a misdemeanor battery charge like this in your office to decline to prosecute it?
It happens. It's not that uncommon. We review misdemeanors that come in, charges that are filed by police agencies, because we ethically have to make a decision whether we have a good faith basis to prosecute or whether there's reasonable doubt. If we know in advance that reasonable doubt exists and we're not going to be able to get a conviction or even beyond a judgment of acquittal by the judge, we can't ethically file those charges.
So, I mean, what would you guess, 10% of the time, half the time? How often is it that a police agency brings a charge like that and you guys decline to prosecute?
As often. I mean, we have a domestic violence unit where we review domestic batteries all the time.
Right.
And, instead of them actually arresting the person, they will present us with a filing packet, in which case we would have to then review the case. And a lot of those cases are not filed, as in this case.
And by the way, when she says often or a lot, it's far from a majority. It's the clear minority of cases.
Right.
Okay. And did you talk to anyone with the Secret Service directly about the protective bubble or about this incident?
No, sir.
There was an affidavit from a FBI agent, but no.
And your conversations with Ms. Fields, were they in person or on the phone? Or?
They were on the phone.
Okay.
I'm curious, in some parts of the country, a district attorney is appointed. Here in Florida, state's attorney is elected. Did you have any outside political influence on your decision here, and how are you registered yourself?
None. And my political affiliation and my political leanings are all very public, but they don't come inside this office. This is an apolitical office. We're all elected with a party affiliation. But once you get to this office and work as state attorney, you're a state attorney for everyone, and you have to run the office in a nonpartisan manner. And as proof, for example, I have 3 chief assistants who are here today. I've got Brian Fernandez, who's a registered Republican, Al Johnson, who's a registered Democrat, and Adrian Ellis, who's no party affiliation.
And you?
Well, it's public. I am a registered Democrat.
Did you get a phone call from Donald Trump's campaign directly? Did Donald Trump try to contact you directly?
Mr. Trump did reach out to this office.
And who did he speak to?
He spoke to a few of us, the chief assistants and me.
What did he say?
he said that he gave his version of the facts and his opinion of the case, and then urged us to do the right thing.
What was his version of the facts?
Well, I mean, we were on the call. The version of the facts was that she touched him, and pretty much that's it. I mean, she touched him, and he did not think that Mr. Lewandowski should be prosecuted for it.
Did he say whether he felt threatened or scared or concerned?
No, he just said that she touched him, and all of that is captured on the video surveillance, and you guys are going to see it. So you know, it was quite evident.
Did the campaign willingly give up the videotape, or did you have to twist their arm to get it?
The Jupiter Police Department had the videotape,
Right.
so we just got it from Jupiter.
When was the call from Mr. Trump approximately?
A couple weeks ago.
Did he make any, I suppose, threat at all that he was thinking of filing a charge against her?
I don't remember any such threat. And I can tell you that the conversation we had with Mr. Trump had no bearing upon our final decision in this case. Just like I said earlier about the existence or non-existence of apology letter had no bearing on our decision in this case. What did have the sole bearing of on our decision were the facts of this case and the law.
Because this is a state with such open records, were there any notes or stenographer taken during that conversation, if it was on speakerphone or on the phone, so that we can make a request for those notes of what Donald Trump had to say?
I don't believe there were any notes taken, but if there were, anything subject to sunshine law would be available to all of you.
Was it a conference call? I mean, you spoke to several people at once, or individually?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Conference call.
Can you, as a longtime person in politics here locally, can you describe your relationship with Mr. Trump, how well you know him, and what type of events or?
Yeah, I got a kick out of the whole political angle because at first they were saying that somehow I was doing this on behalf of Hillary Clinton, and then they found out I was law school housemates, dorm mates with Ted Cruz. He and I actually shared a bathroom first year of law school. I assure you had no impact upon our decision. I knew Marco Rubio in the Florida legislature, and I have met Mr. Trump on a few occasions. I've been to Mar-a-Lago. Last time I was there were 800 others there, so it's not quite a private setting. So, you know, I do, the fact that I have a relationship with several of the people who are running for president has no bearing upon our decision in this case. Our decision was made solely on the facts, solely on the evidence, and solely on the law.
What law school was that, where you shared a room or bathroom, I guess? With,
it was Harvard Law School, and it was Hastings Hall. And I had a reporter call me to question me a couple weeks ago that somehow that was the reason why I did this, and he asked me when was the last time I spoke to Ted Cruz, and I believe it was my third year of law school, which would have been about 20 years ago. Yeah.
Last questions, and then we play the video if y'all are interested.
Zach Fagenson with Reuters. In Ms. Ellis's memo, it talks about how sometimes campaign staff can sort of participate in assisting Secret Service as forming part of the bubble. I mean, is that written down anywhere? Is that codified anywhere? Is that just sort of an accepted practice within campaigning?
I believe that came from the sworn statement from the FBI agent, whom we quote in the memorandum.
On the politics side, you made it clear that politics was not a factor in your decision, but did people try to influence you politically?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Ms. Ellis, what's your first name?
Adrienne.
Adrienne?
Yes, sir.
NNE at the end?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And your title?
I'm one of the chief assistant state attorneys.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is there interest in the video play?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. We'll lower the volume here. And,
Thanks, Adrienne.
Can I get a copy of